You know, have you ever thought about a force of nature so powerful it can travel across an entire ocean, pretty much invisible, at the speed of a jet plane? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into the incredible science of the tsunami.
So the word itself, tsunami, it's Japanese, and all it means is harbor wave. Kind of sounds harmless, right? You picture a gentle little wave lapping up against the docks in a quiet harbor. But as we're about to find out, the reality is anything but.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a name that sounds so peaceful come to represent one of the most powerful, most destructive forces on the entire planet? Well, the answer starts a long, long way from any harbor, deep down on the ocean floor.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, the birth of the wave. And let me tell you, this is not a gentle process. It all kicks off with a really violent disturbance, a massive, sudden burst of energy right on the seabed.
Now, the main trigger, the one we hear about most, is a huge earthquake under or near the ocean. But it's not the only one. You can also get them from underwater volcanic eruptions or even gigantic landslides. The real hotspot, though, the Pacific Ocean's Ring of Fire. The tectonic plates there are always grinding against each other, setting the stage for the kind of megaquakes that can get these waves started.
So how does an earthquake actually make a wave? I want you to picture the ocean floor suddenly just lurching up or dropping down. When that happens, it's like a giant paddle smacking the water from below. It instantly shoves a colossal column of water up towards the surface. All of that energy has to go somewhere, right? So it radiates out in every direction as a series of incredibly powerful waves.
And that brings us to the next part of the story, its journey. Once this thing is born, it starts a silent, unbelievably fast trip across the open ocean. And this is where the danger is basically hiding in plain sight.
Just get a load of this number, 600 miles per hour. In the deep ocean, a tsunami can move that fast. That's literally the cruising speed of a jumbo jet. It's wild to think about a wall of water moving that quickly.
And at that incredible speed, it can cross the entire Pacific Ocean in less than 24 hours. This is exactly why early detection is so important. There just isn't a lot of time to warn towns and cities that might be thousands of miles away from where it all started.
But here's the really tricky part, the thing that makes a tsunami so deceptive. Out in the deep ocean, the wave on the surface might only be a few feet high. Seriously, a huge ship could sail right over it, and the crew wouldn't feel a thing. But what they don't see is that beneath them, a massive column of energy is moving, stretching all the way down to the seabed. And that hidden power, it only shows its face when it gets close to land.
And this is the moment everything changes. As the wave races into shallower water near the coast, it's like the front of it hits the brakes. But the back of the wave is still going hundreds of miles an hour. All that unstoppable energy has nowhere to go but up. The wave gets squeezed, it gets shorter, and its height just explodes. The silent traveler has just turned into an absolute monster.
Which brings us to the final and frankly the most terrifying part, the arrival. All of that energy that crossed thousands of miles of ocean in total silence is now about to be unleashed on the coast with unbelievable force. The scale of this can be just staggering. Even waves from far-off earthquakes can cause water to surge over 50 feet. But for tsunamis generated nearby, they've been measured at over 100 feet high. That's like a 10-story building made of water coming right at you. And the damage? Well, it's devastating, and it lasts for a long time. For people, it's homes, roads, and entire industries just wiped out. For the environment, all that saltwater poisons farmland, making it useless for years. And for the ecosystem, the sheer force can obliterate critical habitats like coral reefs and mangrove forests in an instant. But we're not helpless in the face of this. The story doesn't just end with destruction. We can fight back. And we do it with a mix of really smart science and by understanding the power of nature itself.
Okay, so our first line of defense is all about technology. We've got this global network of warning centers, like the big one in the Pacific, that are constantly listening to the Earth. You can think of them like watchtowers, always scanning for those big earthquakes that might give birth to a wave. But just knowing an earthquake happened isn't enough. We have to know if it actually made a tsunami. Now, coastal tide gauges, they can confirm a wave is there, but that's when it's already arriving, which is too late. The real game changer is this network of special buoys out in the deep ocean. They have sensors on the seafloor that can feel the change in water pressure as a tsunami passes over them. They beam that signal up, and it can give us precious hours of warning time.
But you know, technology isn't our only tool.
Nature has its own defenses, and they are incredibly powerful. Healthy coral reefs, they act like a natural breakwater, just smashing the wave's energy before it can get to shore. And think mangrove forests. They're like giant shock absorbers. Their dense roots soak up and slow down the destructive force of the water.
So that kind of leaves us with a really important question to think about. Our technology is getting smarter and faster every single year. But while we're building all these amazing warning systems, are we also doing enough to protect the natural defenses, the reefs in the forest that have been protecting us all along? It's definitely something worth thinking about.